Hey guys, VaulSC here again. Thanks for watching as always. We're going to take a look at the third round of the ITS event that I was at recently called Intelcom in 2019. Playing, of course, the Shazvasti sectorial for the third game. And we're going to be up against Tohaa for the round here. And the mission's going to be looting and sabotaging. One of the dreaded missions which really defines the event, I feel, and has a lot to say about what kind of list and in fact what kind of faction you bring to the event, because this is a mission where you've got to send a character across the board, you know, to an objective right next to their deployment zone and attack it multiple times without being isolated, without being shot, without being blown up by mines or crazy koalas and all of that kind of thing. So first thing I'm going to do is just talk a bit about the mission and the table. I'm just going to minimize myself all the way out here. Playing on the beautiful Hakaslam table, we've got an objective room there, which is not actually a real objective room. So for this one, I will be taking first turn. My opponent will be, setting up second. And if I just draw a little imaginary line around here, Shazvasti are going to be on this side. And if we draw an imaginary line over here, we're going to have Tohaa over here. In fact, let's choose a bit of a more striking color. There we go, Shazvasti, Tohaa. And you'll have one objective there which the Shazvasti have to defend, and an objective here which Tohaa have to defend. So the thinking is that if you've got something which is immune to isolation, that's great, because you can jump over there and hit it without being destroyed by isolated by a jammer. Any smoke grenades are also very good. Otherwise, you really have to brute force it and kill as many models as you can before going there at the end of the game and attacking it and leaving, you know, your troopers out in the open. Can be good to go second if you think that's going to be the case, because then they can't really retaliate as easily. It's Tohaa though, so not really up against Hakaslam or the other factions with jammers. The thing about Tohaa though is they do have those new Ferro booster guns as well as the Symbio bombs, which can also isolate you as far as I know. So this time I'm going to be running with the 10 order list again, Intelcom Alpha. The list is shown in my introductory video. If you haven't already watched that, check that out. So you're talking about 10 orders, 2 Noctifers, 2 Calibans, Shishkin and the Harris team with the M-Drone and Guailu heavy rocket launcher. Let's have a look at who we're up against though. And by the way, choosing that list because I'm feeling like the Noctifers are going to be very useful for defending the fire lanes, and the Calibans getting to grips with the Tohaa enemy. So just roughly from memory, I think this is the Tohaa list, or an approximation of it, that I was facing. So we've got Nima, the Lieutenant. She was definitely in there in the Spitfire capacity with advanced command for an extra command token. I'm not a huge fan of Nima. Thing is, she is very tough. She does have symbiote armor. She can take a lot of really good firefights with Ballistical 13. Really do prefer the Sukiul though, or even the Ektros for having an HMG. Makuls everywhere. I think he took 3 Makuls all up, although I might be wrong about that number. There was definitely a Gairel triad featuring the Gairel and the Kael'tar chain of command with 2 Symbio mates, of course, and the Tagma schema in there pretending to be a Sukiul. Then there was a triad team featuring a Sakiel, I think it was, a Makul, and another Kael'tar with the Symbio bombs, able to dish out the bombs to various hosts with symbiote armor. There was a Dral mine layer there to use the Stratus Cloud, as well as being again a host for the Symbio bombs. And with the forward deployment, you can have the Symbio bombs further out in the table. There was definitely a Gautarsos there. I can't remember whether this was the one with the heavy machine gun or just the paramedic, or which profile it was. Clipsus mine layer can be very tricksy because you put a regular camouflage marker out on the table, but your Clipsus is in hidden deployment, so the mine is just sticking there and it looks like it might be an Gau trooper. He did take a Delegate and a Krakot Renegade. I think it was the submachine gun. So I'm not a huge fan of this list, although I can see why it would be a decent list for looting and sabotaging. You've got the Makuls for the Eclipse grenades and the double action close combat weapons to blow up the objective, and then you've got some troopers to stop your opponent with the symbiomates, of course, and some mines as well. Stratus Cloud can be very useful. So not a terrible list. I think it's okay for this scenario. but probably not as good as other Tohaa lists are for other missions in general. So I feel like this is his specialized list, specifically for looting and sabotaging, and I think that's a good idea. It's a really good idea to have a secondary list which is going to solve the problem of a very awkward and unusual mission and a problematic mission. Okay, well, let's get into it. Let's find out what happened. So we're going to talk about deployment. So I'm having to deploy first, of course. So let's just discuss this. So this is the back of my deployment zone. You've got Shishkin here with her friendly drone here, and there's the Aguilo heavy rocket launcher prone on top of this little barricade. Dr. Worm behind them, drone right at the back. There's a Shrouded here. The Shrouded is planning on moving towards the center and place some mines around where the objective is to defend that later on in the game. There's a Caliban on the right-hand flank. The thing about the Calibans is I want to have one on either side, and they're either going to be offensive, killing models and softening the enemy for the final blow later when Shishkin moves on to take on the objective, or they will go for the objective themselves with their CC-23 and D charges. So that's going to be quite massive if they can get in. Just a quick look around the left. So I've got a Noctifer missile launcher there, able to get a pretty long fire lane through there and also through to where the objective is. So we've got the objective here, the Noctifer able to help defend that and around the left-hand flank as well. HVT around the extreme left-hand side. There will be a reserve trooper Noctifer. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to put it immediately in line of fire of a Gale Rail if I fail to kill a Gale Rail. So I've got to be careful of that, because the Gale Rail is a very good counter to the Noctifers, being able to ignore TO camo, and the shock from the sniper rifle gets through the Dogged. Right. So having a look at Tohaa setup. So opposite me, he's picked up the Gale Rail position with, of course, the Symbio mate friend there. There is a Kael'tar right next to him, and the Sukiel with missile launcher actually is the Tagma Schema, although he's prone, and that should have been a bit of a giveaway to me. Usually you'd actually stand your Sukiel up, give it a Symbio mate, but because it's it was prone, that should have caught me onto the fact that it was a Tagma Schema. Further out towards the middle of the table, you can see this Saboteur here. This little Pokemon-shaped thing is representing the Symbio Bomb, so he's got that further out into the field to protect his objective, which is over here. Also, this is a mine, so that's going to be standing in the way of me coming through to the objective when we get around to that. Sorry about the blurry photos, by the way. The back of his line, he's got a diplomat here, a delegate. There's a couple of Makuls around here. This is a Sakiel, I believe. That's a Makul there as well. This is on the left-hand flank of the deployment zone. In the center, again, very blurry photo, we've got Nima right there, and we've got a couple of Makuls ready to move out and throw clips, smoke. So Nima has a Symbio mate attached to her, and I think a Symbio bomb as well. I'm not too sure if you can have both of them. I don't see why not. But maybe there was a mistake. Maybe one of them's attached to one of these guys who was in fact not a Makul. My memory of this is a bit hazy. Okay, so my reserve troop is going to be another one of these Noctifers. I'm feeling like my strategy for the first turn is to do whatever it takes to go after the Gale Rail and attempt to destroy it. Then I can control the fire lanes quite well with my Noctifers, force him to have to use Eclipse grenades, and generally spend a lot more time coming across to me. If I can deprive him of orders as well, hopefully he won't be able to do it in a 10-order push to my objective. Also, if I can put some mines in the way as well, that's going to help matters out considerably. You can also see a model through there towards the center. That's my other Caliban. Just remember the positioning of that. So, his reserve trooper is a Krakot Renegade hanging out on the right-hand side flank. You can see his HVT over here as well. So that's the Krakot there, represented by a Zerat. So that's the Dral Saboteur in the mine through the middle. You can see this is his Gale Rail set up around here. And Nima Satar is in this building over there, and his objective is over there. So my objective being, if I just move this camera, my objective being over here. Towards the end of the game, I'm going to have to send something right through the middle of the table to that, and I'm going to be going through a lot of Symbio bombs and mines to get there, but I've got the whole game to clear them first. So, first order of the day, Shishkin moving out, and it's the Harris team. So, the Gwylo coming down, the M-Drone coming down, and Shishkin coming down. And the plan is to get the Gwylo into this position here, where it's got line of fire through to the Gaurel's position. That's going to allow me to make use of my Albedo, the equipment that the Gwylo has, to impose a -6 to hit on the Gaurel. Of course, Nanoscreen allows me to stand out in the open as I do this. +1 burst for being in the team, so it's going to be 3 dice on 13s against a couple of dice shooting back on something like 6s. So that's really going to hopefully crush the Gaurel and allow my Noctifers to get free reign over the battlefield. So here's the setup. You can see the Gwylo in the distance. He's getting a shot off against this Gaurel right here, who's controlling this very long fire lane. And immediately, the first face-to-face roll results in a crit from me. And that's a crit in addition to another hit, so it strips away the Symbiomate. And the Symbiomate, unfortunately, unfortunately for me, is able to protect the Gaurel, so he's able to guts back behind cover here, having lost a wound and losing his Symbiont armor. Moving forward with my M-Drone, it's able to do a sensor sweep and discover both these mines. This is going to be important because as I flank around with my Caliban and later with Shishkin, it's not going to cost me any discover orders to reveal them, and I can remove them with shooting. Then in the final turn of the game, I can move through and attack his objective. Also setting up in this little doorway with the heavy rocket launcher, now that I'm going to be able to remove his sniper. He doesn't have any long-range guns to take on the Gwylo, so that's another mid-game, midfield fire lane that I'm going to be covering. So with that done, you can see the doorway where the Gwylo is moved back to, Shishkin's moved back behind the objective, and the drones move back through here, and I'm going to keep everybody within coherency of the Harris team. The next model to move out is going to be this guy here, and is going to be moving in this direction towards his left-hand side of the table, because I've only spent about 4 orders so far. So the Caliban moving around now. The next target is going to be his Krakot. Krakots don't get cover because they're impetuous, and the Caliban can shoot at him at mid-range with the SMG, with surprise shot, 3 dice, ballistical 12, and that should wreck him. Important to use armor piercing again, because we want to reduce him to an unconscious state where we can do a coup de grace and gain an extra wound from him. That's exactly what happens. So the Caliban comes through, rips this guy up, gains an extra wound from him. Then we can move past and get into line of sight of the wounded Gaurel, who no longer has a Symbiomate, shoot him with the SMG as well, and remove him. And that just leaves the Tagma Schemer over here, who at this point I still think's a Sukiel, but I didn't know. Unfortunately, running out of orders though, so the Caliban just hanging out here, but he does have an additional wound, so hopefully we'll be able to dodge him to safety. So that's the first turn done for Shazvasti. Actually, no, not quite. As the Caliban comes around here, he decides to reveal the Clipsos, who's just hanging out right behind the panoply. And the Clipsos goes for a long-range ARO shot with his combi rifle to try and do damage to the Caliban. And unfortunately, I still have a Lieutenant order left, so that allows me to activate Shishkin, fire at the Clipsos from here with the Red Fury, breaking the link team with a Lieutenant's order, and then re-establishing it with a command token at the end of the turn. But Shishkin, Ballistical 15, in range, makes a mockery of the Clipsos, even though he's got TO camo. He can't deploy close enough to the panoply to get cover from it, and Fatality level 2, just ripping up that Clipsos very, very easily. So a very successful turn. We've destroyed the Gaurel. He doesn't have any MSV2 anymore to deal with my 2 Noctifers. We've dealt with the Clipsos already. We've killed a Krakot Renegade. He doesn't have an extremely robust order count in his list anyway. And we've revealed 2 mines. Haven't lost any models. So a very powerful first turn for Shazvasti. So the response comes in. We've got Nima Satar moving around the corner of this building here. Up top here, able to trace a line through, moving out, of course, tracing a line through to the Caliban. Now, he's a sitting duck against a Spitfire in a Triad, so after a couple of orders here, the Caliban is reduced to nothing. We're then able to move out with the Makuls. Now, this is a point in the game where I feel like my opponent makes a little bit of a mistake. Thinking about the reach of his team here, if he goes out and throws a lot of Eclipse grenades and makes it to my objective and tries to attack it, he's only barely going to make it over there, and he is probably not going to destroy it because I don't think he'd have enough orders left at the end of it. Then he leaves his team right in front of my guys where I can wipe them out, and it just leaves him with so few models to protect his objective later on. And if I destroy his objective while mine remains intact, although wounded, I will win. So we'll see what he actually does here. Moves out with a Makul, throws an Eclipse Grenade, moves everybody into it. So this is midfield right now. Moves out again and throws another Eclipse Grenade, and he's got to put down a lot of these, because I've got Noctifers and the Guilo covering various angles of this, so he's got to be very, very careful. And then moving the rest of the team back, and he decides, because he doesn't have many orders left, to move one of the Makuls around the corner here. And the plan is to try and move up and get range where he can fire his flamethrower in such a way that it will hit the drone, Shishkin, and the Noctifer. So as soon as he comes around here, bearing in mind there's only got a couple of orders to do this, I'm able to go for a dodge, and I'm doing this because there's another Noctifer to the left field, which can actually fire at him as he does this for free and remove him. But the Noctifer up here goes for the dodge, fails the dodge but passes an armor save, so does survive, although the Teo Camo is burnt down to mimetism. Shishkin with physical 15 is able to dodge successfully, and the bot, as far as I can recall, doesn't dodge and does die, goes unconscious. Although I'm not 100% sure I remember. Note that Nanoscreen is also flammable and fire sensitive, but Shishkin does pass the dodge. And in the meantime, our Noctifer hero in the left-hand side of the table gets a missile onto the Makul and destroys it. So we've managed to defend that attack successfully. So on to Tohaa, Shazvasti turn 2, I should say. Note that Nima and the other Makul have retreated back to the position they started in. So with effectively, I think, 8 orders, I believe, Shishkin's now able to move out. And what we're wanting to do here is move out from this position through the midfield, around the back here. And we want to get into a position where she can clear up these, the Tagma schema and shoot through the building into Nima and do some damage on her. And set Shishkin up on the corner of the table where she threatens the objective, but also moves his troops to try and deal with her and frees up an angle for the other Caliban to go in on. We also have to avoid the Symbio bomb here, otherwise Shishkin might get isolated, and we definitely don't want that. As she moves through, she's moving and shooting so that she can clear these mines. That's going to be important because we're going to be making a run onto the objective later on, and we want to do it without having to dodge any mines, so she does that. Moves through to a point where she's able to get an angle onto Nima, and with Nima trying to defend there with just a Spitfire, she's on a 2-man team at the moment, so not a triad. Shishkin able to shoot through with Fatality level 2 and start removing stuff like the Symbiomate, stripping off Symbiont armor and that kind of thing as we go in here. But Nima able to retreat into the corner, of course, and that is going to allow Shishkin to move up through, realize that the Sukiul is in fact not a Sukiul but a Tagma schema, and removing him. What I ultimately wanted to do here was to move Shishkin up the ladder and fire at this model in the distance, this Dral Saboteur, who is also holding on to a Symbio bomb, and that further clears the way for me to move in on his objective. Unfortunately, as I attempted that, the Dral managed to dodge a bit closer and get into better cover, and wasn't able to kill him, as it were. But Shishkin does end the turn, having removed the Tagma. So we are really reducing a lot of orders here. Also able to push out here, get line onto Nima, and then pull back, and effectively reduce her to just 1 wound left, as it were, by the end of the turn. So a successful run there by Shishkin, and she's in a great position to threaten that objective. Although, while this was happening, she did take a wound, and she is 1 wound left, unfortunately. So there is that. Nima over here, getting ready to defend. She's just shuffling to a position where she's in total cover, away from Shishkin's glares. Now, he does have another triad on the other side of the table, so in the following turn, we've barely got any orders left. Galrail still hasn't shown up. Gal Tarsos, that is, I meant to say. So we've got the other team moving out. I think he's breaking the link so that he can move out with Impetuous or something like that. Can't quite remember. He's also lost his delegate because Shishkin blasted her from long range. So Makul now moving around, moving through here, and eventually trying to get to a point where the Makul can move through and get something in to attack Shishkin with. Possibly a flamer, possibly a pistol. possibly throwing an Eclipse Grenade here. Can't quite remember what the play was, but the important thing is just to move around to a better position. So Shishkin dodges away. His next plan will be to take the Saboteur and come down around here and try and get in there with the Symbio Bomb in the active turn and try to isolate her, because that's going to be very powerful. It will prevent Shishkin from going around after the objective, and boy, she would really devastate that objective if she gets in there, so Tohaa don't want to allow that to happen. So Dral moving down to level 1, going through the ground. You can see his little dinosaur here, squawking along the ground, the Symbio Bomb, and that's going to allow him to go after Shishkin and bomb her. Shishkin unfortunately fails to reset, fails the BTS checks, and is isolated. Now we had to check the rules here to find out what happens with Chain of Command if your lieutenant is isolated. And after some reading, apparently the Chain of Command rule works if your lieutenant goes into null state or is isolated, apparently. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure we looked at the exact rule and we looked it up. And because I've got 2 Calibans on the table, one's dead, one's alive, the lieutenant now shifts to the other Caliban. Caliban's awesome, by the way, if you've got Chain of Command. Absolutely beautiful profile. And although Shishkin is, she's neutralized, she can still fight a little bit, and we've now wasted all of the enemy's Symbio Bombs. He doesn't have any mines left, and the last turn of the game, we've got a perfectly good Caliban, which can now move down from his little hideout perch and walk through this objective room and win the day. And you'll see how easy that is. So Caliban moving all the way around here, he's got nothing to defend the objective at all, and the Caliban is automatically hitting with every decharge because he's CC23, -3 for using a decharge. It's on 20s, every roll is going to hit, only a 20 will crit, and that's going to cause 3 armor saves at half armor. Even though the structure is very strong, that's eventually going to be 3 armor saves over 3 orders, sorry, 9 armor saves over 3 orders, and that does result in the objective being blown up with decharges by this Caliban. So that basically means the game's in the bag. Now the Shroud are moving out to maximize objective points, moving to this little panoply here to gain some things out of it so that we can get an extra point, because the scenario does require that. Shishkin moving out with her isolated irregular order to get line of sight onto this Makul to get revenge, and of course getting rid of him with the Red Fury. And everybody else just hanging out, putting out suppression fire. Dr. Worm around here. We've got the Shrouded laying a mine and just getting ready to defend this objective in the last turn. All he can really do is try and land with the Gautarsos, which was his plan B at this point. Gautarsos, unfortunately, not managing the landing and scattering through to the middle of this objective room. He's able to shoot the Caliban in the back, but that's really all. Tohaa really starved for orders at this point, so I think it's a 10-1 victory for Shazvasti. Very, very decisive game, but you can see how many things went right for me. I managed to take a lot of pressure away from the Caliban so the Caliban could move in. I did the work removing the mines. I did the work removing the Symbio Bombs. I reduced his order count down to a very low number. And the Calibans, as usual, very, very effective. And I feel good about taking this sectorial to this tournament, knowing that if I'd been playing OSS, what could I have used from OSS that would have been able to come over here without being isolated and actually attack the objective reliably? Yes, you can get decharges, but it's quite hard to get decharges on a CC20 model or 23 model in that sectorial. Yes, you have things like Yato Troopers, Shakti, who are veterans and cannot be isolated, but then again, I mean, how easy would it be to get them over there and, avoid the mines, avoid the AROs? They don't have any smoke. Can they kill the objective very cleanly? I'm not sure, but Shazvasti were a pretty good choice for that. Ultimately, I think one of the better sectorials or factions to do this with would be something involving Smoke and Krakot Renegades, because then you've got Berserk and a double-action close combat weapon. But there are a lot of other factors to consider as well with the other scenarios. Anyway, that's 3 games done and 3 very, very big wins. And importantly, tournament-wise, I am now on 29 objective points, having got a 10-0 and a 9-1 and like a 10-1, that kind of thing. So that means I'm way out in front of the tournament. The next game I'll have to play another undefeated opponent, and of course having to get right through to the end. If I do drop a game, I may be able to win the tournament anyway with a very big score, depending on how other people do, but it's a very solid first day from Shazvasti with 3 very big wins. Stick with me though, still a couple of bat reps to come about how the tournament wraps up on the second day. Thanks for watching as always.